Hey everybody, I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and for me to tell you why I adore this game Judgment so much, I need to give you a little bit of background. If you didn't know, Judgment is the first new IP from Yakuza developers Ryu Ga Gotoku since 2012's Binary Domain. It represents them taking a ton of lovable elements from an already beloved series, but providing something of a clean slate wipe for the present and the future. Because for many, including myself, the Yakuza series is one of the all-time greats, a cult classic that only across the last few years has finally seen some decent chart positions and sales success in the West. It's a franchise that essentially rolls together Dragon Ball Z power glows, Metal Gear Solid plot twists, soap opera relationships, and martial arts choreography into some of the most enjoyable and narratively satisfying experiences in gaming. However, over the years, Ryu Ga Gotoku gradually went more and more ridiculous with their amping up of Yakuza main character Kazuma Kiryu's abilities, resulting in him taking on an entire city's worth of enemies by himself, or dodging multiple missiles as he survived gunshot wounds and stabbings, his character eventually disconnecting from this life of crime to wander off anew. While I've always been a fan of this rampant escalation to some degree, it was clear that the devs were inevitably going to run out of road, and when you've had two final installments, something had to give. Enter Judgment, an ultimately refreshing and recommendable detective thriller spin-off that reframes Yakuza's world as something altogether more detailed and altogether more worthwhile. Newcomer Takayuki Yagami is a sprightly alternative to Kiryu in every way possible. Where Kazuma's fighting style boiled down to the same flurry of light-heavy attacks across all main installments, only to build up to a finisher and repeat, Yagami has a range of wall-bounce attacks, some timing-based finishes, launchers to extend combos, and an overhead dodge that can be comboed back into a throw or even more moves. It thankfully encourages you to rely far less on just watching for your special meter filling so that you can do one of the series' iconic heat actions, and puts the impetus on dodging, creating space, or just showing off. Sadly, for the first third or so of the game, until you unlock things like the basic combo speed upgrades or the aforementioned newer abilities like ingratiating walls or enemy bodies into your combos, it can feel like Judgment just can't keep up with your inputs. Yagami certainly feels capable, but the lock-on is unreliable. Animations seem to run on past your button presses, and the camera can get very easily stuck in the environment. Moves connect, but their hitboxes are ginormous. Most fights devolve into a mess of half-intended combos on your part, as the game delivers what looks like motion-captured roundhouses or well-animated finishes regardless. You're initially left with a feeling of looseness and kinda button mashing, even if that's not what you were doing in the first place. It's markedly different to the proficient enemy smackdowns that you were at least able to reliably dish out as Kazuma Kiryu in the Yakuza games. Thankfully, those upgrades do come, and with two martial arts styles, Crane and Tiger, one for groups and one-on-ones respectively, you ultimately do eventually form a playstyle that's reliably enjoyable. I'm gonna say though, with the option to charge punch an enemy straight through a window or send another careening into a room full of office equipment, all shattering as they bend and break over scores of items shattering in unison, all Ryu Ga Gotoku's studio need to do is perfect things like lock-on, launchers, and aiming while throwing, and we'd have the best, most satisfyingly exquisite 3D brawler money can buy. They are so close, and sometimes yet so far. Now, for as much as we have a new focus on dodging and picking your spots, don't get me wrong, Yagami still has some stupidly brilliant heat finishers like drop-kicking someone with a playground swing, breaking their fingers with a pair of chopsticks, or catching a spicy meat skewer thrown his way from a friend, only to jab it in his opponent's mouth until they pass out. These quirky, enjoyably video gamey interactions remind you that it's still the same group of creatives behind the code. But the thing I adore the most is how this chunky combat accentuates the best story in a Yakuza game since number 4. From front to back, although it occasionally drags and results in you running from cutscene trigger to cutscene trigger for around half an hour or so every 8 to 10 hours or so, the whole thing being around 35-ish hours for me, the vast majority of Judgment hits the gas and keeps the pedal down. What starts as chasing a serial killer with multiple suspects gradually morphs into something that involves Yagami's past as a lawyer, a huge array of characters comprising multiple Yakuza families, chairmen, law enforcement, government officials, and everyone in between. To say more would of course spoil things, but know that even when the game is at its most lax and freewheeling, the plot seemingly abandoning what you were just doing, everything does fold back into the main narrative in time. I'll just reiterate, I adore this game's story. Annoyingly, although it's strong out of the gate, it does take a good 9 to 10 hours for everything to hit 5th gear. Once there though, you'll be invested in everything that's unfolding to just keep going. Personally, I'm a sucker for a good courtroom drama anyway, and with Takayuki being cast out onto the fringe of law enforcement, only to find his way back into defendant hearings or prosecutions, it's the perfect mix of cinematically delivered revelations and vigilante justice gameplay sections. There's even a super obvious Ace Attorney reference that had me beaming, and you can probably guess what it is. Speaking of gameplay sections, the devs have tried to spice up every handful of Judgment's main missions with a slew of minigames. They range from unbelievably outdated, like hiding in a number of spots while tailing a suspect, to just plain bizarre, like hitting the right button to use the right key on a door, the results from each netting you a few more upgrade points. Like, yeah, I, used the right key and then I remembered that I can kick 3 dudes in the head at once. Video games. There's even a whole tree of the upgrade menu dedicated to more time when tailing someone or picking the right key every time. To be honest though, I never needed these things and you likely won't either, so put your points into all the head kicking and all the stuff that lets you throw people into microwaves inside convenience stores. I will say that when the main missions combine every major gameplay mechanic and minigame into a good 40-ish minutes worth of action, it's very solid and engaging. The variety on display making you forgive the fact that you're picking locks or scouring the environment with your drone for another clue. Thankfully, to help you keep up with the whiplash plot reveals, you're given a pause menu case file that you can consult at any time in-game. And as each chapter starts, a preceding flashback with narration will fill you in. Also, in between all these crowd gasp moments is a meaty, detailed open world. It's ostensibly the same Kamurocho layout that we've been exploring since 2004, but the in-game Sega arcade includes everything from Virtua Fighter 5 to Puyo Puyo, fighting vipers to a House of the Dead tribute, Kamuro of the Dead. Yagami's own office has a vinyl player for collectible records and a fully playable Unreal Engine pinball game. All that though is just the tip of the iceberg. Explore further and you'll find drone races, mahjong tournaments, batting cages, darts, gacha games and claw machines. There's even a VR parlor where the devs have essentially created a miniature Mario Party, seeing Yagami land on different sections in a fully digital maze world to trigger fights, power-ups, rewards and more. Kamurocho has never looked or felt better, and as graphics are gorgeously realistic across the board, there's something genuinely lovable about being a virtual tourist in this fictional greatest hits of Japanese entertainment. Now that all those positives are out the way, I would be remiss not to mention just how much carries over from Yakuza. For fans of Ryu Ga Gotoku's past work, everything from HUD elements to the reused setting, the way fight animations start, even a number of contextual finishing animations are carbon copies. You'll be wandering Tenkaichi Street and the Champion District, eating at Smile Burger, playing the same smattering of classic video game emulations. Initially, I did take this as middling to a bit of a negative. And then it hit me. All of this is intentional, not budgetary. The character that we've been with this whole time wasn't Kazama Kiryu, but Kamurocho itself. Ryu Ga Gotoku clearly didn't want to leave all the fun that they can have with Kamurocho's Gotham City levels of infinite crime, nor move away entirely from the multi-layered power structure of the Yakuza and the police. Instead, they wanted to write a new story not built around superpowered gang members kicking each other in the face for about 20 minutes. Giving Takayuki Yagami his own private detective agency, letting him interact with the Yakuza and its inhabitants from a completely different angle, all of it lets you appreciate just how much is going on in the city at any given time. You'll wander off the beaten path to taste test a person in your building's food until they get the recipe just right. You'll defend new store owners from thugs on their doorstep, only to dart into a restaurant for some gyoza dumplings, teriyaki chicken and Asahi beer, all of which refills your health on the way to the next plot point, a phone call filling you in about a new suspect in the main case. Where Yakuza ensured that we enjoyed the excesses and criminal underpinnings of a fictional cesspool like Kamurocho, Judgment asks you to care about keeping it in tip-top shape. The result only making you love Ryu Ga Gotoku's body of work even more. I'm going 4 stars. And those are my thoughts. Have you guys tried the Yakuza games and which one is your favorite? For me, I'm going Yakuza 3 because it's the perfect mix of crazy and character work alongside. But I do also love Yakuza 4's multi-character final showdown at the top of Millennium Tower. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast and I'll catch you soon.
Look, my son. Look at the marvel that I have created. Look at the quality fabric hand-stitched by blind orphans. The perfect letter spacing calculated so meticulously that Rich Hudson had an erection for months about it. And a colouring so deep that I had to buy the dye off the dark web. Oh no, the beast has grown angry, angered by our drab fashion choices. I am such a fool to think that it wouldn't try to infect us with its perfect design. Quick, we must do something to appease the beast. Why don't we buy one from shop.whatculture.com? Look, it's already got Scott Nash.
Oh no!
Shop.whatculture.com. Quick, let's go and buy one right now. Let's go buy one right now.